Hey everybody, welcome to the Vault. We have a special episode here. This is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I've been talking to Munfu and Leon specifically about this project for quite a while. It's something that I've wanted to do for several years now, but I'd love to give a little background first. So, for those that don't know, I grew up a huge hip hop fan, and one of my favorite producers outside of DJ Premier and the RZA was J Dilla.
Yeah.
J Dilla, JD. He had several different sort of aliases, but he was someone whose hypnotic beats just like really it took me by. It was something special to me in my late 20s. I mean, in my early 20s, late teens. And, some of the best albums I've ever listened to were produced by Dilla, or at least partially produced by Dilla. So
Yeah.
I think one of my first encounters with him was the Fantastic Volume 1. That was the first album with Slum Village. And then you had different albums like Water for Chocolate by Common. I don't know if you remember that album, but that one was just an incredible album. There wasn't a single track on that album you skipped.
Yeah.
He produced
Dilla
most
just
of that.
had a specific sound
Yeah.
that, like, when you work with him, like that sound, it's kind of like Alchemist. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you get certain, you know what I mean? Like a certain artist that it flows with, he meshed with who he dealt with. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because early on he did have this very distinct sound, right? But then when he got towards the end of his time on Earth, he was certainly someone who had multiple different styles. Like it was, I think his last album Donuts was described as almost a clash of two different producers,
Right.
which was interesting, right?
Yeah,
Because early
yeah.
on he had a signature sound. Like another album that I loved as a kid was The Far Side.
I was gonna say Far Side is definitely like,
They're like the
man.
West Coast backpack crew, right? But they
Yup.
were Lab Cab in California was one of my favorite albums of all time as well. It's still something I
Yeah.
listen to this day. And a lot of that album was also produced by Dilla.
Right.
And he also collabed with someone who I still have a ton of respect for, Madlib. Madlib was another great producer. I mean, he did stuff for the Alcoholics and some other groups out on the West Coast, but they came together to create like a little like duo called J-Lib, and they had an album called Champion Sound. But I think to kind of surmise it or summarize this, he was a huge influence on me and my musical taste, even to this day. And there was one album that we already referenced, Donuts, that really stood out to me. Now, Dilla was on his deathbed between 2005 and 2006. He suffered from lupus and a rare blood disease that was incurable. Right. So between 2005 2006, he's in a hospital on his deathbed, right?
Literally.
And he had all he had in that room, besides his essentials, was a sampler and a small 45 record player. And 45s that his family would bring to him, his mother would bring to him, or his friends like J-Rock and some other guys that were on that scene at the time would bring him records. And he was putting together this album Donuts from his deathbed. And part of the album, The Shining, I believe. I think there was two albums going on at that time, but Donuts is the seminal album that was being worked on there. To the point where lupus and this rare blood disease had his fingers so swollen he could barely do his work, right? So his mother would be massaging his fingers. Middle of the night, he'd want to get up and go over to the instruments to kind of do his thing. She'd help him get over there. This dude was crafting his one last album, and he knew it, man.
Yeah.
And for me, like that kind of passion and that kind of creativity and the undying spirit to just kind of create is what drew me to that album, Donuts. Donuts is an album, 31 tracks or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's a lot, yeah.
Very short, but like light works. There's certain beats on there that if you hear them now, you're like, holy shit, this is just insane. Like people have used some of those beats, but also I think they've influenced so much. I agree. I think Rolling Stone had that album as one of the 300, I think it was like number 386 all time in Rolling Stone's album list, which, I mean, you're like, well, 386, that's a big number. Not when you think how many albums are out there.
Yeah, no doubt. Like on the grand scheme of things, that's not, what I mean? That's crazy.
And the fact that he created it on his deathbed is what makes it it's absolutely incredible to think that this guy did that from his deathbed with, like, I mean, spare parts and records
Right.
that were just brought into him that he had to choose from a crate, and then bring the junk back home if it wasn't good enough for him, you know.
Yep.
But again, like, I can't state enough how important he was to hip hop, how important he was to me and my music, my love of hip hop music, and it still shapes my taste today, you know.
Definitely. Definitely.
But
It's just a
yeah,
specific sound that you can't like. If you grew up listening to a specific type of sound, man, that's something that you'll never stop loving. You might start liking other stuff, but you always go back. That's like your roots, you know what I mean? I feel that definitely. So
yeah, and I think you know, I think everyone remembers this. This is like an iconic album cover, right? This is the
yeah.
Donuts album cover, and one thing to note here is this wasn't a picture. It's fuzzy here, I get that, but this it's meant to be that way. And you know, there wasn't a way to get a good picture of him towards the end, right? So they had to utilize something from the past, and this is the picture that his mother felt kind of embodied him, right?
Yeah.
This was I think this was taken after a music video by MED. That was another Detroit kind of hip hop guy.
Hmm.
Um, but what I always took away from this photo, besides, you know, his energy and just, it was Dilla, man. This is Dilla, man. This is, you know, you
Definitely.
look at that, it just, I mean, it's iconic to me.
Right, right, right.
But what I loved so much about it was also the hat on his head. Um, Listen, that it looks dated, right? I mean, this looks
It
like a,
does. But it encapsulates a time period. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It encapsulates a time period. And I feel like that's like the dope part about it is
yep,
that it's very distinctive. Like if you were around that time, you know exactly what people were wearing.
mm-hmm,
Like just even the striped polo, it's just it all makes sense. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just like a real kind of um like a hip hop staple. You know, it's like one of
yeah,
those eras that you just know exactly how people were at that time, especially. And it's crazy too, because even going into Dilla, just even being like from Detroit and stuff, it's
yeah,
like so much from that time from Detroit was moving. You had you had D12, like there was a lot of moving parts. So it's like it's crazy to just see that it's just like a very legendary look, you know. It's
yeah. A legendary look on a legend. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
definitely.
honestly, man, I can't say enough about this guy. I think I've gushed about him enough, right? But you know, I've been trying for many years to get this hat made, right?
Yeah.
So finally I found a partner in John J and the MyFitteds team. Um, and they helped me put this together, and it's actually going to be releasing. This hat I'm about to show you is releasing on Saturday at 6 p.m. Now, I've been waiting forever for this thing. So, you know, and I know I got one in your hands too.
Yep.
So I had to make sure that I got a few folks this hat in hand, because this thing, I think, is going to be, I believe, one of the hottest hats of the year because
Definitely.
of what it means. Now, I'm going to show it to everybody. And I'm also going to add some reasoning, because the original doesn't have a side patch. Okay, what he was wearing there didn't have a side patch in
Right.
that picture. But when we put this together, we said, you know, he died in 2006. Guess who was in the World Series in 2006? The Tigers, right?
It's only right.
Take a look at this. That's about as clean as a cap gets. And then you got that 2006 World Series patch on the side.
Hmm.
I might not ever. I have to get two of these because, you know, I helped create this, but recreate this, I should say. But this one right here will never go on my head. This is going into a special case. But this hat is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And you know, there's not a ton of them, but there certainly is quite a few that are going to be up for sale on the MyFitteds website Saturday, 6 p.m.
Yeah. This is a banger, man. This is a classic hat. I don't know. It's dope.
Dude, you know what? You know, and it's interesting because when I look at it, man, it just reminds me of a different time in my life, man.
Hmm.
When I would just, like, you know, I would just kind of go do my thing. I would drive around the car and just, like, you know, listen to, you know, like Water for Chocolate or something like that. And it just reminds me of a different time in my life, man, when it was a lot less stress. You know,
Yeah.
it was a different time with a lot less responsibility, but this hat means so much to me. And I can't thank John J enough for helping me bring it to life. Again, listen, man,
Yeah, they killed it.
this is a piece of hip hop history right here, man.
It's wool too, so I feel like it meets the era. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, that's all specific. That's what we did on purpose.
Yeah, it's like it's perfect. It's dope.
And we went with that patch again, 2006, to commemorate the year that Dilla was taken from us. Right there, 2006. Yeah. So I mean, listen, I could go all day talking about Dilla, talking about that that era of hip hop, but again, I got to thank John J and MyFitteds. Andre, I got to thank you for coming on with me. You've been such a huge supporter of everything that I do, as well as me being a supporter of what you do. But man, you mean a lot to me. Dilla means a lot to me. John J means a lot to me. This community means a lot to me. So please, if you want this, jump on MyFitteds website, 6 p.m. on Saturday. I jump on a little earlier than that to get one of these. But with that, Andre, how about you take us away?
Thank you, man. Listen, guys, like he said, MyFitteds. You said Saturday?
Saturday, 6 p.m.
Saturday, 6 o'clock.
Eastern time.
Eastern.
Time.
Yeah, Eastern. We got to say that. We're on Eastern, so we're on the same page. But yeah, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. MyFitteds. It's a dope hat, man. In hand. It's just very well made. Everything about it is dope. Obviously the concept behind it too is dope. And it's I think it's really good that MyFitteds got the opportunity to do this because they're the ones that always have a story to tell with their hat.
Yeah, for sure.
It tells that story. So what we need you guys to do is drop a like on the video, comment down below. Are you gonna go for the drop? Let us know, man. Monfu Profit. It's views from the vault, baby. Subscribe if you haven't. We're out.
All right, see you, everybody.